I want to play a game. But there are rules. By the end of this video, you must guess what this mystery statue is. If you do, you will win a prize shipped directly to your house. If you do not, you will be forever banned from the Extreme channel. So put your guess in the comments below. The first one to get it right wins. Those who do not, well, you don't want to be one of those.
Mr. X, aka Jigsaw, here on the Extreme channel, doing something a little bit different. As I said in the intro, I want you to guess what this statue is. We're going to do a traditional review. I'm going to describe it. I'm going to obviously leave a few things out that'll be dead giveaways. But if you were the first one to guess, you're going to win a prize. So we're going to launch a video in a few days with this thing uncovered and then also announce the winner. What am I going to win, Mr. X? Well, it depends on where you live in the world, and you will find that out in the video in a few days. But just play along, damn it. So today we are reviewing this licensed 1/4 scale statue, and I've had this piece in my collection a long time. I bought him because I got him for a hell of a deal, and he goes really well with the team that he's with. And personally, I think he's a very underrated statue. You can actually buy him for under retail. They made 750 of these, and the original retail was $500. I think I picked him up for about 400 shipped, and honestly, I don't understand why, so let's dive into the review. First thing we talk about is concept. With this particular piece, they want to make sure they capture the character. Does it tie to other characters in the line? Is it unique? So he has a standard museum style base on the bottom, and you guys know I'm not a fan of these, but on top of that you have some rocks, and we'll talk about the paint and sculpt later, but this does tie to a few of the other pieces, and you have one of the fallen enemies, or at least part of the fallen enemy on the bottom. So I like the fact that it stayed with some of the rest of the line. And as you move up, he's in a museum pose, even though he is ready to attack. His weapons are out, he looks a little fierce, and I think they chose the perfect pose because it could be considered semi-dynamic. But he's fully decked out in all of his armor, very serious, very ready to go. It's kind of a fight pose. So I like what they did there. That was really smart. Like I said, it kind of works with any type of collection. Now, with that being said, the concept isn't amazing. It's not unique. It's very good. So I think it's a 3 out of 5. You got to remember, if we were looking at a statue that goes for under retail, it's probably not phenomenal, but I personally do like it. Next, design, and it's been a long time since I put this piece together, but we'll talk about displayability, size, all that stuff. So let's actually measure him first. His widest point is probably about 11 inches. His tallest point is right at 21.5, a little bit over. And then deep is a little bit different because of the way he's structured is 13 inches or so. As far as pieces, the fallen enemy on the base, that's one piece. Gun is one piece. And then I believe, it's been a long time, the rest of it is all one piece. So there's only 3 or 4 different pieces to this, including the base, which makes it very easy. Helps that there's no seam lines, even though there really wouldn't be with this character. You could hide the seam lines pretty easily. I like the displayability factor. He is 1/4 scale, but he is small. So you don't have a problem fitting him in with other characters on the team. So one thing I would say about him is this representation of the character isn't what he always looks like, but it was in the film that he represents. So I think, and this is probably my favorite representation of him. He looks really badass. I like some of the coloring we're going to talk about. And one thing, he does have a cool light up feature. Here it is right here. And if they didn't add this, I think it would have been a huge miss. It probably would have downgraded the design, to be honest with you, to a ugly. But because they added this, there's a decent amount going on. It's simplistic, and sometimes less is more. I think the design is actually a 4 out of 5. I think it's a rail on the design. Nice job. So we're going to use the picture method for paint and sculpt, and let's start at the bottom at this base. It is a little dusty. I haven't dusted this guy, but the black museum type base is fine. It's shiny, kind of that enamel on it. It raises him up more, which is really good with design, which I didn't really talk about. But here's the rocks. So I don't like that they use the same coloring in the rocks. It's a little too dark for me, especially with how dark his suit is. There is some variation in it, and the texture is nice on it, so I think the sculpt is good, but there's just a little bit of a miss because they could have used more contrast. Now if you look at his enemy, I really like this. It's good. You see just the arm and the head. I like how shiny and battle damaged it is. A lot of scoring, some of the blue highlights on the helmet. Looks really cool. Depending how you display it though, you don't always get to see the best shot of it. And as you move up the statue, one thing I don't like, sometimes they do this, is on his boots, there's kind of this dirt effect. It looks like speckled paint. It doesn't look like dirt effect, but I think that's what they were going for. I don't like that. I like the other color, this blackish gray that's throughout most of his costume. You can see it right here. There's really not variation in it or any texture, which I don't think there needs to be. And then you see the other parts with the silver and even some writing on it. But it looks really good, the way everything floats together. It doesn't really pop at you by any means, but it is done really nice. And even as you move up, so I'm not a huge fan of the way they sculpted his torso. It almost looks like the costume is bending with him, which I don't like, because that shouldn't happen. But there is some different layers on there, which is a decent way to do it. And the same thing going on with the armor that we talked about below. Some more writing up at the top here. Take a look at his arms, and you can't see much anatomy, of course, underneath the costume by any means. But the flow of it is fine. It's normal. It's what you'd expect to have. Then see his hands here. They did a good job sculpting those. Take a look at the gun. Looks good. I think I would have liked a little bit of a bigger gun, but this fits really well with the statue. And a bigger gun might have been a little bit overpowering. And it's a little bit different color they used on this. And I like the fact they added the yellow. Let's take a look at his portrait. His only portrait here. Looks exactly as it should. It's pretty accurate, I believe. Looks kind of bored and pissed at the same time. You know, and at the beginning I said this statue is undervalued. The paint and sculpt are fine. You know, they're not great, they're not bad, and I think that makes it a little bit boring, but it doesn't make it undervalued by any means. So with that, I think the paint and sculpt are both a 3 out of 5. They're very nice as well, which I think you can see where we're going with this statue. The X Factor, does it have the X Factor? Is it extreme? No, it isn't. It's a very nice statue, especially for the fact that you can get it for 20+% under retail. A 1/4 scale character from a popular line you can get for $350 to $500 is a pretty big score. So it's decent. Alright guys, it's a couple days later and we have some winners. The first winner, his comment was actually deleted because he is part of the member group. So they saw this video a few days before everybody else, and that is Alex C. Alex already emailed me his info, so he is going to win a Mr. X flask and knife. Gonna mail those off to Alex. Now I was watching the comments as they came in, although that wasn't important because I could just sort them by order. And when they came in, the first person to guess War Machine was John Barker. Now the thing is, John's comment is not there anymore and I don't know what happened. So I have to be as fair as possible. So John, go ahead and email me at extremechannelmrx@gmail.com to claim your prize, and depending where you live in the world will depend what your prize is. And then we're gonna take the first comment that is still there, and that is actually one of the biggest supporters of the channel. I've never had to say your name out loud, but Stuka Von Furno. He is the first one actually in there. Like I said, John Barker's comment was there earlier, but it's gone. So we'll just give prizes to both of them. So both of those guys, please email me below, and depending where you live at in the world, you'll get some Extreme Channel merchandise. It just depends where you live on what you'll get. But really appreciate everybody playing. I probably won't do this again in the future, even though I had a lot of fun doing it. Simply for the honest fact that the video didn't have a lot of traction. And then I'm guessing this video won't have a lot of traction either. But thanks everybody for playing. I really appreciate it. In the meantime, check out some of these other playlists and subscribe if you have not by clicking on that logo. Thanks so much. Take care.